All right, everybody, how you doing? How's PAX? Good. A lot of Nintendo fans out there? Let's hear it for Yoshi. Oh wait, no, this is different game. Thanks for coming today. We're going to hear all about this massive, epic open world RPG that's on its way, coming December 4th in North America. The art in the world of Xenoblade Chronicles X. We've got some experts from the Treehouse here. We've got special guest Mark McDonald from 84 Limited, all the way from Tokyo. Represent. After we finish, we'll have about 10 minutes at the end for some Q&A. You can line up the mic there. But let me go ahead and kick it off. Thanks for coming.
Cool. Thanks, John. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. This is the art and world of Xenoblade Chronicles X. I am Scott Ritchie, producer and localization manager at the Treehouse Nintendo of America. I'm joined today by Demetrius and Mark. If you guys want to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Demetrius Boggs. You guys may have seen me already on the PAX floor introducing Xenoblade Chronicles for the last 2 days. I'm a product marketing specialist, and I work with Scott, and this is a great game.
My name is Mark McDonald. As John and Scott mentioned, I'm here as a special guest. I don't work at Nintendo, but I work at a company out of Tokyo, Japan called 84. Oh man, thank you guys. This is a good crowd. I like this crowd. So we, for those of you who aren't wooing for me, we do a lot of game localization. We've done some work with Nintendo before. You might have heard of a little game called Glory of Heracles. No, you haven't heard of that one. But that is a game that we did for Nintendo. But more recently, we did Fire Emblem Awakening. Awesome game. And yeah, we're lucky enough to, we just announced this yesterday, but also be working closely with the Treehouse doing Xenoblade Chronicles X. So I'm super honored and happy and excited to be here. So thank you guys all for coming, and thank you, Nintendo, for having me here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
I should mention, as it turns out, that Mark has not been super duper closely involved with the localization of this title on his side.
That's right.
It's actually been John Ricciardi, who at this very moment is doing voice recording for this title.
Yeah.
But Mark graciously agreed to be here and help moderate.
Right, yeah. So this is why it's a good thing that I am the one here as the least knowledgeable person about Xenoblade Chronicles X within 8.4. The reason being because the guys who really know the game inside and out are hard at work in Tokyo, and some of them here actually in Seattle, finishing up the game in time for the December release. So it's starting to look really good. The voices are in. I'm excited for people to start seeing the localization aspects, although we'll probably touch on some of that stuff today, but that's really not going to be the focus of what we're here to talk about.
We're more about concept art today. We're going to talk about iteration and design and how things end up looking in the final game. But before we jump into it, I want to play a little message from someone who's on the panel in spirit. This is the executive director of Monolith Soft, Tetsuya Takahashi. See if we get there.
こんにちは、モノリスソフトの高橋です。PAX プライム2015ゼノブレイドクロニクル X パネルに来ていただいてありがとうございます。本日は NOA の皆さんから北米版のスペシャルエディションパッケージの内容や開発中のコンセプトアートの紹介などもありますので、ぜひ楽しんでいってください。
Thank you, Mr. Takahashi. So, as he mentioned, today we're going to be talking about a lot of the details and iteration that you'll see in concept art from Xenoblade Chronicles X. We're going to be looking at environments and structures, races, characters, and enemies, and I think that it'll give you a lot of interesting hooks that change your perspective on the game.
And a lot of this is art that's never been seen, even in the Japanese, the book that came with the special edition, or in any of the promotion that's happened so far with
Correct.
it, right? So which is cool.
Also, we're going to be playing videos that show the final versions of each topic that we're discussing today. And behind each of those will be one of the soundtrack selections that will be in our special edition contents. Which brings me to my final point. We're also going to be revealing the full contents of our special edition today.
Oh man, what a crowd.
You
I
guys
love
are
this
great.
crowd. Yeah, this is an awesome crowd.
That was a question people have been asking me today over and over. Are you going to announce today? I'm like, go see the panel.
So just to get started, John mentioned earlier that this is a very large open world science fiction RPG. And to talk about that, I wanted to show you guys a series of images that really sells that for me, that really takes that home. And it was a painting developed as a promotional activity for the Japanese release. And we're going to start with an early sketch and walk you through how it changed out a little bit. So the first one I'm going to show you is kind of terrifying, but this is just them roughing out some shape in the composition and getting things.
It's like the
right.
cocktail napkin,
little
very
bit
rough,
abstract,
just putting
yeah.
out the ideas, kind of.
Then you can see like a little bit more detail coming in. You can actually tell what some of these structures and characters are, and finishing touches here. But one of the things that I really want to talk about here is how nicely this image communicates the scale of the game to me. Like, you have characters in the foreground, but then very large boss enemies, a feeling of a huge expansive world with these really weird alien civilization structures looming in the background.
This actually, like, this image could have been a really cool box art, you know, even like it really encapsulates a lot about this game. So the sense of scale here, where you're seeing the humanoid figures, and some of them are actually main characters. There you can see Lynn and Elma in the background, who are main characters that you'll get to see, but you see them fighting kind of on one scale, and then you also see the giant robots there in the background, the enemies, the spaceship overhead. So you get the sense that, you know, there are two scales in this game. There is a very smaller humanoid kind of level fighting scale, and there's
Very
a whole
true.
city at that level and everything, and there's monsters that you're fighting that are on that level, and then there's another whole giant level of the entire game, and that's enemies and your skells, your mechs that you fly around in, everything. And it also goes to just saying what a huge game this is in general. You know, you are in a scale that big and still flying around this world, and it takes a long time just to even get around the world.
Very
you know,
true.
It's huge.
So because this is such a good image that iconically represents all these different elements of the game, and because I personally like it for having that 70s, 80s sci-fi paperback cover feel to it, this is going to be the first part of our special edition contents that we're introducing today. There will be a matted art card that comes in the game of this image, and it'll give you a chance to really explore some of the details in there. You can even see the different classes' fighting styles, like Lynn is holding a shield, and Elma has like a close melee weapon.
Yeah, as you play the game, you'll be able to kind of recognize, like, oh, this is an area in Oblivion. Oh, I know that scale in the background. I know that enemy back there. That's what I see. It's pretty cool.
So the first thing that we're going to talk about today in terms of concept art is going to be New Los Angeles. And this is, as you imagine, a city. Here's an early image of this in development. But it represents the habitat section of a very large ship, which was one of the last to leave Earth before its destruction during a war between two alien races.
That's right, the white whale. Just
So
got out in time.
So this entire city is just this one circular section of a very, very large ship. And here is an image of that ship crashing into the uncharted planet Mira. The large hole that you can see on the right, kind of in the middle, is where the habitat section would have fit. So that detached shortly before impact.
I
And
just
this
want
is
to point
all-
out that, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I just want to point out, this blows my mind because NLA is a really big area in the game, and that little hole in the middle of this picture is where NLA resides. It's just crazy. So that ship must just be ginormous.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I think we're going to keep talking about, because it's going to keep coming up, just the scale and like breadth and ambition and epicness of the game in every aspect, like the size of the environments and later on with the weapons and everything. But yeah, and this is, if you've seen any of the earlier Xenoblade Chronicles X coverage from E3, or I think even last year they might have showed part of the last year's E3. They might have shown part of the intro movie
That's
of the
correct.
game. Yeah, and so you've seen this. It starts with a cutscene. So this is not, you know, a story spoiler here or anything like that. But there's a really cool cutscene that kicks everything off and kind of sets it up where this crash landing actually happens.
And so if you take a look at New Los Angeles, NLA, once it has landed on the surface of planet Mira. Here you see it listing a bit to the side. It's in the water, partially submerged. And there's these blue crystal structures that are kind of flying out one side of it. And this was a concept art image that showed that this was an impact gel deployed right before it hit the land.
Which I didn't even know, and I'm not sure is explained explicitly in the game anywhere.
Not that I know of, and
but
I played through most of it.
Right, but there's so many of these details that are there that are not even have to be like overtly explained, but so much of this has been thought through by the creators of these games. The level of detail is kind of amazing.
Yeah, one thing I want to discuss real quick is just the level of detail, like you're saying, they go through. It's kind of a, what did they not think of? I mean, even in their early sketches, they're thinking of how the ship landed and how that can, transfer over to when you're playing the game, just from a visual standpoint. It's quite amazing.
There's things in these notes that we didn't know, we've played, the game backwards and forwards and whatever, but it's not necessarily important to know as somebody working on the localization, but it's these cool background details that they did think of making the game. So this kind of stuff was really cool for me to see the first time here.
Mm-hmm.
So just to go inside NLA real quick, you can see that because the structure is partially submerged in the water here, when you look at the lower levels, those are going to be flooded. Also, something that I like to pull out of this image is all of the ductwork and sort of exposed industrial stuff that really sell the idea that this was the bowels, the underbelly of a very large ship at one time.
And this is a huge, huge city. It's kind of like the hub of the game. This is where you're always going back to, and where your houses, where the barracks are.
Correct.
Where humanity's like little foothold on this new world is. So, this is not just one. This is a really major, important part of the game. I think why we're starting off with NLA.
And NLA really is the last bastion of humanity, as far as these survivors know, in the universe. So it has a very tenacious hold on survival here on this strange new planet. And I love the image on the left showing this kind of severe landscape. But in the midst of that, there's hope. You see all of these cranes and the constant reconstruction in the images on the right that show you that humanity is trying to entrench itself and rebuild.
And the image, the top right image there, gives you a little sense of the scale. So there is, an entire shopping district in this. There's entire administrative industrial district,
and then commercial
It's huge. Even just getting around in the city, if you want to go on foot, can take you a while.
It takes a while.
And there's traffic, there's things moving around. It's pretty big.
And if you want to just take a runner off of one of those streets into the water below, that's a good thing to do. That's nice.
I think we've all done that.
Yeah.
I got lost in the water once, so it wasn't great. I felt embarrassed.
And then one more thing I wanted to show you. This is kind of a small thing, but it helps understand the different scales of the city, because you have people who are piloting these mechs, these skells, and driving around in vehicle form, as well as interacting with things in the city on foot. And having these vending machine type kiosks rather than a shop that you have to go into and then interact with a storekeeper makes it easy to just ride your skell up to something, hop out, buy what you need, and hop back in.
Right, yeah, there's a whole area of town, right, close to the barracks where you're doing a lot of buying and selling. Different companies are developing new weapons and things that you can buy and equip. If you find certain people, you don't have to, but they're optional, that will unlock new things in the stores.
That is correct. And
stuff.
What's cool too about these vending machine here is that's actually not what it looks like in game. So this is an early sketch. So this really surprised me when I saw it, because they changed it and when it's actually in the game, but it's still really cool. I've never seen a sign that said vending machine, but I love the idea. I just see a futuristic console now, so it's cool to see where it came from, where it went. The size is still big, though.
I also like seeing things like this because it's so easy to take for granted that every single element in this large, fully realized world that you're exploring was designed in a process that took quite a long time and a lot of thought and a bit of iteration. They try out different things, even on the smallest elements.
Which we'll be seeing coming up, too.
So now we have a video that we can play here of New Los Angeles as it appears in the game, as well as one of the soundtrack selections. Here we go. Okay, that was just a quick peek there. They're all pretty short like that, just to give you some idea.
We could be listening to songs all day.
Yeah, and you're going to if you play this game, because you're running around in the game a lot, and you're going to hear that music a lot.
Next, we're going to get into one of the structures in the game, and these are lifehold units. So the White Whale is an arc ship in the sense that it carries the survivors, the last remnants of humanity, but also all of their accumulated knowledge and cultural information. And the lifeholds, without giving away too much information, play a crucial role in the game. One of your main functions as a member of this organization, Blade, will be to seek out lifeholds that have been scattered throughout the planet as the ship crashed, because they will play a vital role in humanity moving forward into the future.
And this might look familiar to certain people.
Yeah.
Some people out there have already asked me, if there's any ties to Takahashi-san's previous work, and it kind of looks like it right here.
Glance, 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 glance.
So if you're very familiar with other Xeno games in the past, you might know about the object, the Zohar, which itself is a reference to the Kabbalah sacred text. And this here, it's this large slab. It's a monolith type structure, but they kind of pulled out the sides just a little bit to make it cruciform, to give it this cross shape. And you know that this sort of thing is really important to the people who made this game, because they named their company Monolith Soft. So clearly there's something about this here. But when I think about the cultural significance of a monolith, I always think about the movie 2001 and how audiences in the 1960s would have been surprised that upon finally encountering a higher intelligence, it wasn't some anthropomorphized deity, but rather this cold slab, the last thing they expect. But Takahashi-san has done something really interesting and kind of pulled that back into this explicitly religious iconography.
Right. This is definitely like a theme, something he's into. You don't name the company something,
Right.
and then it appears in various forms throughout all your games. So yeah.
Definitely a special significance.
So let's take a look at how you would encounter one of these in the world. Got a video here with another soundtrack song. Okay. So
yeah,
nice
they're not
quick
small.
look.
They're pretty decent sized.
So because of the important story role that these objects play, as well as the importance to the story that Takahashi-san wants to tell, we decided to include this in our special edition as the shape for a custom USB soundtrack.
And it lights up, right?
Yes, it does light up.
That's not just Photoshop. It actually does light up like that.
So this is a render, but I have seen some early images of prototypes coming out of the factory, and there's a lot of detail on this metal casing for the housing.
It looks nice.
And there's those lines are actually open up to the blue LED below, and there's a nice sticker for detail on it. Looks really good. So we're very excited to introduce that to you guys. I'm glad you like it.
That was also that's also something new for the US, right? That was not
right.
in the Japanese edition, which is cool.
Yep. Yay! Okay.
Glad you guys like it.
Excellent. All right, moving ahead. Now we're going to take a look at one of the alien races in the game. These are the Wrothians. As you can see, the Wrothians are a feline alien species. They're a very proud race. They have a lot of these honorable warrior ideals, and a lot of times have lined up with sort of a samurai inspiration for the designers.
Yep, very feudal Japan, very warrior code.
Very calm, composed.
Talking about honor a lot, yeah, and if they're gonna fight you, they'll fight you fair, and that kind of stuff. They're actually really interesting a group. There's two characters especially that play a main role in the story. That
you don't actually encounter these guys until a little bit into the game, but we've shown off some videos and clips of them because their designs are really interesting and very cool. Who doesn't like space cats? I mean, really.
Well, everyone likes space cats.
Everyone likes space cats.
Duh.
And you can see a lot of the inspiration for the design here in this samurai armor. The helmet has a bit of a conical shape, sort of like the jingasa is a traditional Japanese feudal military helmet that is often like a lacquered wood or a metal. You also notice that because they are a feline, think more tiger than kitty cat, they do have this digitigrade leg where they walk mostly on the foot pads and the ball of the foot rather than the whole flat foot like humans.
What was that word again?
Digitigrade.
Okay, awesome.
And
That's
I guess
cool.
I'll
I didn't
go-
even know that had a name. That's pretty cool, where the leg goes up like that.
And I guess I'll change it to Space Lions. Sorry,
yeah,
I
there you
correct
go.
myself there.
That's right. That wasn't my call.
Another thing I like to point out is the crest. The symbol that you see at the bottom here looks a lot like sort of the traditional Japanese family crests that are sometimes found on old suits of armor and things like that. There will be like a 2 comma or a 3 comma pattern that forms like a triskelion in the negative space there. But what I love about this is that the team updated it to have more of a sci-fi feel here. They told us that this symbol actually represents a binary black hole system, which is the most metal thing I've ever heard.
And this
I
is
didn't even
just
know about that.
yeah, it's not. This is not like a giant symbol that you see everywhere and is super important to the main plot or anything like that. Again, it's just an example of a tiny little detail that you don't even necessarily know, but that they've thought of reasons in fiction, in world, for it to be exactly the way that it is.
It's like 2 stars spinning around. Okay, I'm going to get all scientific in here. I'm going to stop. That's cool.
And so this race starts out as hostile when you first meet them, but you can befriend them. And
Spoilers.
Sorry. One of the benefits of befriending alien races in this game is that they will start an arms and armor company in the city of New Los Angeles and create things for you. And this is a concept art for armor that could be worn by the playable characters, so who are essentially human, but you still see that sort of digitigrade leg in the left, and that's sort of an animation image, as they were showing a concept of how you could get across the feline nature of the race that created this suit of armor, even though it was being worn by a human.
I have a feeling a lot of people are going to be wearing this armor because it's pretty cool.
pretty badass.
It's one of the first ones that I got, and I loved it, wearing a lot of it.
The designers told us that this particular armor concept was based on the warrior deity of Wrothian culture, so has a lot of significance for them.
So yeah, they even thought through, okay, this race, this is their like war god. Okay, well, this is what he looks like. Here's what the armor derived from him is. It's pretty impressive.
And then they get sad when the reference is lost on humans, I suppose. Yeah. And here's another one. This one definitely has a really clear sort of feel of that male kimono with a couple of different pieces of armor attached to the outside of it. But it still does have a feline nature with the ears that kind of fly
ear
out
protectors,
from the faceplates there. Yeah.
It's one of the first pieces of armor you get when you meet them, actually, so that's cool.
But I love the details here, the red sash, the kind of feel of the fabric on the inside.
Definitely big samurai, a heavy samurai feel here.
Even the split toe on the boot kind of looks like it has that split-toed tabby sock feel, which is really cool. And this is a Wrothian skull, which, again, you'll see the conical helmet is going back to that Jingasa shape. And I also learned from the designers that they were going for kind of a cast iron black color on this, which is associated with one of the crafts from Iwate Prefecture in Japan. So they have very specific references for each of these design elements.
And so in Skell, short for exoskeleton, which I was talking about earlier, being the big, basically the big robots, the big mechs, that not just that humans do have, but they're not the only ones. Kind of each race has its own class of these kind of robots, and you can tell in the design, just from the design, even if you weren't told explicitly which race made it, you can tell just by the design, because it's just really thought through. Like, well, this is their culture, this is how they think, this is how they look, this is what their version of the robot would look
In-game,
like.
you can definitely identify by their themes of who they are, like what type of enemies and what level they'll be. Like, oh, okay, I know what I'll get from that and who they are.
Some other things that I would point out on this slide is on the top right, you see them all arrayed together, and they're doing a couple of different inspirational points here where they're thinking about, for the structure of a mandala, for example, where you would have a central deity figure with lesser deities arrayed around it. It also invokes this idea of a samurai war council in the field where they would have a three-sided curtain structure set up and then array themselves in a line. If you watch a lot of old samurai films, you've probably seen a scene that looks like that.
Yep, Samurai War Camp.
And then the seated version that's in the middle is actually the knees would tuck under, and so they're sitting in a zazen style. So there's a lot of kind of Buddhist imagery going on here as well.
Meditating robots.
So let's take a look at
Who doesn't like that?
Let's take a look at how Wrothians are in the game with some more soundtrack.
So those are the two. Those are the two that I was mentioning earlier. And we could say like it looks like the video is hitching or something like that. It doesn't at all in the game. That's just an artifact of the computer playing here, right? It's perfectly smooth. It looks great. That kind of thing bothers me. I don't know if that bothers anybody else, but I'm like, hold on, let's make that clear.
Next, we're going to talk about the race of Orphans. This is an insectoid alien species who are highly intelligent. They're very good at working with machinery. And I really love the iteration they did in this series of concept art in particular. If you look at the top, on the left there is sort of a feathery moth-type antenna, whereas on the right is a different type of antenna they considered that are kind of like a hard, almost mandible shape.
And you mentioned you met these guys pretty early in the game when you played Demetrius. You as well.
Yeah, I've actually showed this off at PAX. I showed the quest to actually meet these guys.
Okay, because I was mostly involved with the main scenario, so I didn't ever meet them myself. And I believe this is the race that one of the guys in the office who had finished the game hadn't met, and somebody else was talking about them, and he's like, wait, who are you talking about? And they're like, there's this whole race that you don't even have to, there's just so much the crazy optional extra stuff too.
They're highly intelligent in the way they see everything, and they perceive like a 51% chance that it'll rain today, kind of thing. It's really, really funny how they're written. I love it.
Cool.
And so on the image here at the bottom, if you see that large carapace that they've designed, that is contains a lot of analytical equipment that they would use, and it even has these two fine little extended feelers that they can use to do fine manipulation as they're analyzing something. So this is definitely your go-to science-y race that will help you out. And they also will create armors for playable characters.
And I just want to point out, this is my favorite design in the game. I didn't get a chance to show anybody over at PAX, but the armor for this group is amazing looking in game. Really cool.
I love how they still, like the Wrothians armor, they retain some of the elements that are distinctive to that race. You see some really insectoid features, which, especially in the one on the left, are a direct callback to a lot of Japanese sci-fi influence, like your Ultraman or your Kamen Rider. You can see
very
it coming through
Guyver
there.
kind of almost looking. But the detail is crazy, like just on that drawing, it's nuts.
I really like the color treatment on this.
And one thing is that there's different colors when you play the game. It's not just the green and the black that you see on the left or the purple and white. As you level up, you gain different color schemes. It's really cool.
And here's an example of a weapon designed by the Orphans, which again is so insectoid in appearance, it looks like it could actually be an insect body part that was removed and used as a blade.
Yeah, like the through lines on all the weapons and armor and races and then their vehicles and everything is just really one of the cool things about this game, the art direction. Again, you can just look at this and kind of guess which race it is that would have made this weapon.
And that is a knife that you would use for one of your classes.
That's a knife.
That's definitely a knife.
All right, let's take a look at Orphans in game with some more music.
Sure, it's alright, because a better picture we can find. Just like our dreams, they've gotta be free. So anyway, let's move on.
So just to point out real quick, that's the first armor series that you get, the light white, blue.
Okay, next we're going to take a look at another character. This one is named L.
It's not a typo, that is a character's name. It is short for something, though. Does anybody want to take a stab at what it is? I actually asked. It's only said he usually goes by L, right? Because his name is so hard to pronounce, basically.
Spoiler.
It was like that in the Japanese. Go again.
Lushidafit.
I think it's L.
That's the Japanese anyway.
Okay, that's the Japanese name. Oh, now you're going to get us in trouble because I'm going to say the U.S. names. Let me try. Maybe really not get this wrong. El Suruf.
Ooh.
El Suruf, I believe. But you only hear that a couple times in the entire game. He mostly goes by El, as he does go by a shortened version in the Japanese version as well.
Cool.
And he is a main character, right? He's somebody you're going to see a lot of.
And you can already tell the design right here is very interesting because it's not what it looks like now.
He doesn't look like this at all.
Right.
This is like dirty space hippie kind of. As you'll see, yeah, we'll eventually get there. But don't worry, he does not look like this in the final game.
So L is a character who's sort of a hermit and a wanderer, and he's a scholar as well. You find him looking around various remnants of ancient civilizations and studying them, and he definitely does have his music festival poncho on in this particular concept art.
I was going to say, I think you just kind of described a hippie.
He's a fish fan. He followed fish out to Mira, and that's where you find him.
But they went in a couple of different directions with this character because it was the very first one that they started designing for this project. It was very dear to them, very close to their hearts, and they tried a lot of different things, some of which are completely unexpected. So
Again, he does not look like this in the final game.
Yeah, we want to set that straight there.
So in this concept art, you can see he has kind of a wooden hat on, and if you look at the hand in the bottom of the middle, there is like a sort of a branch coming back away from the finger joint as if he himself is made of wood.
Like Groot, like from what's it called? Guardians of the Galaxy, from property not to be named.
That
But
movie with a lot of 60s and 70s songs.
but he looks like the first thing I thought of when I saw this was Scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz, right? I'm just getting that vibe from it.
But he's a dandy scarecrow with
That's
lace
true.
doilies. Yeah.
dandy Scarecrow.
Yeah. Some of the other iteration they did on this character was even taking a look at how light or heavy they wanted the clothing to be. So this is a light through heavy series of 4 possibilities, and you can imagine that for a nomadic hermit character, probably lighter clothing would be a bit more credible here than the sort of heavy ritual robes that you see on the far right.
And they did all this work, all this exploration of the character and whatever, just to get to the final thing. It's not like these were reused for other characters or anything else. He's the only one of his race that you find.
And one last kind of iteration they did on this character was kind of a light versus dark concept. And you can see in the image on the left that there are horns coming out from the top of the head, but they kind of point down and they sort of blend into the hair features, whereas on the right, having these arched horns come out is really diabolical, in addition to, of course, the color scheme and having really long claws.
He looks like he looks like a final boss there on the right, but
Yeah.
So like wings of fire.
yeah, he looks pretty evil there, but he's not.
That dark concept does give you the sense that there is a little bit of mystery. There's kind of a backstory to this character that you get to explore a little bit in the game.
It's definitely a fun character to have in your party as well.
So probably the image on the left is the closest to how Elle ended up looking in the final game,
Yeah.
but you'll see a few differences as we play this video of him with more music. That's Elle. Hey.
Hey.
Next, we're going
Wrong
to take a
series.
look at a character called Celica. And one of the reasons that I wanted to introduce this character is because they started to play around with another type of iteration, which is how much animal features they wanted to represent in this character. You can see that she has a tail here, for example. But when you look at the next slide, you're going to see that they considered an entire range of possibilities. And I love this slide. Just the idea that they would have gone into such fine slivers of variation between
Goes
each.
from hamster, mini hamster, to avatar person, to like,
All I saw was like
furry.
braids, rows, 60% braids, 40% braids.
And this was not the only kind of iteration they did on this character. They also considered some age iteration as well. So you see in the middle there a 10-year-old version, on the far right a 20-year-old version, as well as a couple of different costume concepts, both a crew uniform as well as some personal clothing. So with that in mind, let's take a look at how Celica came out in the game. Also, I should warn you, this is the song that plays when you overdrive in a Scowl. So think
to
hyper
preface
mode.
this one,
Think
yeah.
hyper mode.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
about
yeah.
to get
didn't think about that.
It's
about to get hyper mode in here.
I'm about to get hype.
Time has taught me how to dig the tail watching. Daylight in the circle, dig the tail watching. Time has taught me how to dig the tail watching. Daylight
Okay, that's Celica. You also would have noticed behind Celica there a very large hulking creature, and that is her companion, Rock. Rock is another interesting character in terms of the iteration that they did here. Despite appearances having this huge, massive body and being somewhat beastly, Rock is actually very young for his species and has a kind of a childlike naivete to
If
him.
you hear his voice, you know it immediately because he speaks very young, and yeah, he thinks very young. But from his appearance, you expect. I remember the first time that I heard him talking in the Japanese. I was just walking past somebody playing the game, and I thought there's something wrong with the debug, like the early version of the game. I thought the voices were mismatched or something like that. But it's actually an interesting juxtaposition.
It really
towards
is.
making his character really unique, that he is that way.
Very soft-hearted kind of character.
And so some of the other options that were considered for Rock, on the left is an actual stone body, more of a rocky character. And some of the extremities, like the tail and the finger, and especially the horn on top of the head, have kind of a hot rock magma glow to them. And this is something that they had considered making it glow even brighter whenever he's using a particularly impressive show of force.
And then on the right there, almost looks like a Wrothian, his head there. Almost looks
never
more
thought
like
about
feline.
That. Yeah.
But there's this great comment in the right on the Japanese about how they were going for a football player silhouette here, and you can see that in the hulking shoulder pads.
So the football player silhouette concept actually is what they meant by that. They're actually
Right,
trying
he
to go
does-
for a football
yeah.
player. Pretty funny stuff.
So in terms of how menacing this character looks and the idea that they wanted to have just a little bit of a juxtaposition with its childlike personality, think about that, and also the relative percentage of animal features that you see in the character as we take a look at the video.
It almost looks like they took some of the elements they were considering for the Celica design and attached them to the rock with the ears and those parts of it.
Let's show it
Watch that
again.
again. See the ears that I'm talking about? Celica ears, yeah. And Eagle-eyed fans might have noticed some familiar characters. Xenoblade fans might have noticed some characters there in the sidelines of that part.
Little Easter egg.
Next, we're going to take a look at enemies, and this is the Ganglion scale design. Ganglion are one of the main hostile groups of aliens you'll encounter in the game, and as you can see from their scale design, it has sort of this sinister, deep-sea creature look to it. There are these spines that come out of the back of the head, sort of like a crustacean might have, and the large lobate head and the articulated neck have kind of an octopus feel to them, while you have these long pincers as well.
And the scale designs and the mechanical, pretty much anything mechanical in this entire game, but largely the scales is my favorite part of the art of Xenoblade, and is one of the reasons why I really love the game. Is this design, as an old kind of Robotech guy, like this is the kind of stuff I love, and that I feel like only is done really, really well out of Japan. I mean, that just looks amazing to me, and this stuff is all over the game. There's
One thing to
tons of
explain
it.
too, yeah, exactly that. And what's cool is when you fight these guys and they open up their pincers and fire like laser beams at you, but you don't really know where that energy comes from, but you can see here in this illustration exactly how it works. So this one really stuck out to me a lot as well.
And also you'll notice that this skull construction is on the narrower, lighter side. So this is a skull that's built for speed and agility. Also wanted to show you guys another concept, and this is a robot-powered skull. You can see in the leftmost image, the top left there is a ganglion robot that's powering this thing. And the designers, when they were coming up with this concept, wanted to give something that was different enough from all of the humanoid mech designs that you would see in the game so that it would stand out a little bit
Like an
more.
ostrich almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the weapon that descends from the body of this design is something that when you're actually
No laughing. No laughing.
can actually be destroyed in combat, and they won't be able to use that attack.
Which some may have seen me do earlier today as I took a bunch of these guys out.
Yeah. No laughing at destroying the special weapon that drops from.
Maybe I'll just play the video.
That is
okay,
the
Mark?
serious- yeah.
Yeah,
Why don't we do
yeah.
that? Why don't- Cut to the video, please.
So this is all of the ganglion skull forces amassing.
So there's the scale. There you're seeing a lot of different stuff. The amount of different machines just in one, alien race or group of them, and then you were seeing that vista that they were marching on. That's all. You're gonna go all those places in the game. I mean, this game is huge.
And that last scene kind of speaks to how overwhelmed you are in the game. You have this huge, massive force trying to, wipe out
Right, you're
all
out
of
on there on the
Earthlings,
frontier.
right? Yeah. So it's just one of the things I really loved that scene.
Okay, we got, I think, one last topic that we can cover here
Spoilers! You might want to leave the room now.
today. It's not really. It's not. It's
Kind
not that
of.
bad. Well, this is a
Kind of,
very
not really.
large boss that you will encounter. You can see from the skyscrapers on the left the sense of scale they were trying to convey here. But it's a huge saucer section with legs as well as a skull body that emerges out of the top.
This is a sick boss fight. Just saying.
I definitely got roughed up a few times.
Yeah.
This is a
fighting
big
this.
deal when you encounter this thing. It's a very big deal in the story, and just by the size of this thing relative to everything else in the game is one of those like wow kind of moments.
So the original name and concept for this boss was the Aegis, which is from the Greek mythology. It's a reference to a shield. And from that shield, they took the idea of this round saucer shape and went from there. But this is sort of like an armada buster in the Ganglion army. The beam cannon that you see in the front of the saucer part is capable of taking out a ship as large as the white whale, the designers told us.
Yeah, this is
That
their
blows my
secret
mind.
weapon. This is their big deal. Their A-bomb.
Star Destroyer.
There you go. Yeah.
And here's kind of a schematic view of that
Look
boss.
at that. That's crazy. Yeah.
One of the other concepts here was to have weapons arrayed around the entire circumference of the saucer so that there was no dead angle that was safe for an attacking enemy to approach. You get a little better view of how the skull body articulates out of the top with these wings.
Yeah,
One thing I want to point out too is as you play the game and you get a lot of scale stuff, you actually can identify from that last image like, oh, those are grenades, that's a missile launcher, because you kind of use those weapons yourself. So these are really cool illustrations for that purpose.
Mm-hmm. And on the top right, where you see this series of hand-drawn images, that shows exactly how the skull will articulate out
I love
of
how he
the
pops
saucer
up. He's
body.
like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
Zufog!
The Jack in the
Fog
Box.
is here. Start the party.
Zufog in the house.
And this shows off really well in the video, which we have. Yeah. So all of the concept art that we've been looking at today, as well as much more, will be included in the art book that accompanies our special edition, and it's going to be a large format. It's 11 by 7.75 with over 100 pages.
Which is way bigger. There was one that came out in Japan, but it was much smaller.
A smaller book, yeah.
Both in size and in form factor, right? And didn't have all of the art that this one has.
So there's going to be some new art in here that is appearing in this book for the very first time anywhere, and that large format really allows the composition to breathe a little bit, and you can sort of get into the detail much better. And with that, we have all of the pieces of our special edition, so we can show you all of it together. The one thing that I guess we haven't touched on just yet is that the game pack itself will have reversible cover art. So if you want to match the art of the special edition box on the game pack itself, you can do that.
You can see the box there. The box is huge because it has to fit the art book. It's not just as big as a normal special edition.
Right, so a lot of special editions, if they're about the same profile as the game pack, will be like this, but this one's like ba-bow, because of the art book.
It actually makes that noise when
Yep,
you open it.
exactly.
Ba-bow.
Okay, and that is all going to be available December 4th.
All right, thanks for the big round of applause for our panelists today.